Hi everybody, welcome to Live Blogger. In this video I'll show you how to create this simple blur animation for your text. So here we can see we have these two words over here, and when we hover over these we have this effect where the text focuses, and when we don't hover over the text we have it blurred, and the same goes with this text right here, and we also have a little bit of scaling going on. So in this video I'll show you how to create this effect using HTML and CSS. So let's get started. Right here I have created this folder called blur text, and I just opened it with VS Code. So let's go ahead and create the necessary files. We need to create an HTML and a CSS file. So let's click on new file and let's name it index.html, and let's create another file and let's name it style.css, and let's start with the index.html file. Now in VS Code you have the shortcut where you can just press exclamation and press tab, and you'll have this basic HTML5 code. And let's also link our CSS over here, so let's type link and press tab, and in the href I'll just type style.css. And let's also add the link of the font. So we're going to use a font called Montserrat. So first of all let's get the link of the font. So here I'm in fonts.google.com, and let's search for Montserrat. And here's the font. Let's click on it. And we need to select the bold font, so let's scroll down and let's select this one right here called bold 700. Let's click on this plus button, and now here we have the link of the font. So let's click on view selected families, and let's copy this link into our HTML, and let's go back to our HTML and let's paste it over here inside the head section. Right now let's start with the markup. So first of all let's create a container division, and let's give it a class of blur text container, and in that we will have these two words. So for each of the word we will have a span. So let's create a span, and let's also give it a class of blur text, and for the first one let's type live, and let's duplicate this, and for the next one let's type blogger. And now let's open this in our browser and let's see how it looks. So I have this extension called Live Server installed in VS Code. So once you install that, you can just right click over here in the HTML and click on Open with Live Server. So here we can see we have the text displayed, and that's basically it with the HTML. Now let's go ahead and add the CSS and make it look like this. Before that we can see that we have this red color for this text, and for this we have the default color. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a class called red for this text, so that we can style it easily in CSS. So let's go back to our HTML, and here let's add a new class and let's type red. Now if you want to add the blur effect for each of the characters instead of the whole word, you can just create multiple spans and add one letter in each of the spans. Alright, let's go to our CSS and let's start styling this. First of all let me just bring this to the center. So let's select the body, and let's set the height to 100 viewport height, and let's set the margin to 0, and let's set the display to grid and place items, and let's set it to center. And now we can see our text is exactly in the center. Now let's also add a background color. So let's type background, and we will use a linear gradient. So let's type linear gradient, and here we will add 62 degrees, and for the first color let's type FBAB7E, and this is for 0%, and for the next color let's type F7CE68, and this is for 100%. And now we can see we have this linear gradient background. Right now let's target the text. So it is inside this blur text container with a class of blur text. So let's type blur text container blur text, and let's set the font family to Montserrat and sans serif, and let's set the font weight to 800. Right now let's set the font size, and let's set it to 80 pixels, and let's also set the text transform to uppercase. Now we need to add some space between these words, so let's add a margin. So let's type margin 0 for top and bottom, and for left and right let's try 24 pixels, and I think that looks alright. Right now we need to change the color of this text to red. So we have already created this class over here called red. So let's select that. I'll just type blur text container, blur text dot red, and let's set the color to red. Alright, now the last thing we need to do is add the hover effect. So by default we should have the blur applied to this text. So here let's type filter, and let's set the blur to 8 pixels. And now we can see we have this blur for this text. Now let's remove the blur when we hover over this. So let's create a hover effect. Let's type blur text container, blur text colon hover, and let's set the filter to blur 0. And we also need to have a smooth animation. So let's type transition, and let's set it to all 400 milliseconds ease. Right, now let's go back, and now when we hover over this, the text is displayed clearly. Now we'll also add some scaling when we hover over this. So let's type transform scale, and let's set the scale to 1.2. And now let's go back, and now if we hover over this, we can see that the scale is not being applied. That's because the span element is display of inline by default. So we have to change it to inline block. So here we need to type display of inline block. Now let's go back. Now if you hover over this, we have the scale applied. So everything is working alright. So that's basically how you can add blur effect to your text in your website using HTML and CSS. Alright, so that's it for this video. I will leave the link of the source code in the description, and if you have any doubts you can ask in the comments below. And if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.